Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I'm Tyler, and joining me, as always, is our co-host Smitty. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find Pocket Cast. There's so many things that we're on right now. Go follow us there. We have our own channels, and also go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow that up as well. And also, if you want our on Twitter, go check out our pin tweet. We have our Rocking Around the 412 Christmas fundraiser going. You're able to check it out there or go to GoFundMe.com directly and type in Rocking Around the 412 and you can check out the mission. We're trying to raise some money to help out some families for Christmas and give kids the Christmases that Smitty and I have always been able to have growing up, and people aren't so fortunate. So we try to help them out. This is year 5. Last year, we've raised over $11,000 just that year, which is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to eclipse that this year. So if you want to go to either the pin tweet on Twitter or GoFundMe.com directly and search Rock Around the 412, you can read about the mission there and donate if you choose.
Yeah, $20,000 raised through the 4 years of doing it so far. But like you said, 11,000 of that was last year, so more than doubled the previous 3 years on its own. But yeah, all right. So we're gonna jump right into this. We're gonna talk about the Steelers first and foremost. Whatever that was last Thursday night against the Browns. But what we're going to start doing, we're going to introduce a new segment to the show every week after Steelers games. We're going to have Sarge's Steelers notes. You guys might know Sarge. He's been on the show a couple times. He also used to do the editing for our YouTube videos. We mentioned him a lot on here, but it's so interesting because I think that he views sports so much differently than I. It's a nice contrast. Like some of the stuff that he picks up on, I just don't catch, and vice versa. So it's interesting to see like the things that he keeps track of while watching Steelers games, and he sends me his notes now on things that he's picking up on. So first and foremost, and this has to be true. When he sent it to me, I was like, this has to be true, but I've never thought about this. The Steelers are the only organization in sports where every head coach has won a championship. That has to be true, right?
I'll take Sarge's word for it because
I'm not looking this up. Because I want it to be true. I feel like it has to be.
So it's every organization in the sport has won a championship.
Out of every organization in sports, the Steelers are the only team where every head coach they've had has won a championship.
Has Derek Shelton won a championship?
No, the Steelers. Not Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Only the Steelers. Out of every organization in sports, across all sports.
I assume we're just not counting before Chuck Noll.
We're not, apparently.
Okay, if we're talking Super Bowl era, then sure, that's probably correct.
Mm-hmm.
Although we don't talk about Browns fans, they love to talk about their 8 or 10 whatever championships they have.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chuck Noll and prior, I guess that's true.
Objectively, that guitar thing was so dumb. I do agree with this. I thought it was terrible, and I'm not saying that because I'm a Steelers fan. We were playing against them, and they did it against us. I thought it was horrible. I thought it was horrible the previous week. I think it's dumb. Donovan Mitchell's the one that did it this week or against us.
Guitar thing? Am I missing something?
So it smashes a guitar with the logo of the team that they're playing on the guitar.
Oh,
pre-game.
I guess I just didn't.
If you weren't watching, if you weren't watching pregame, you wouldn't have seen it. So
I had no idea that was a thing. So that's a Browns thing.
Yeah, they're going to be doing it every week. It appears.
Okay, that's interesting.
Naj got to bring back the visor. Visors make every player look cooler. I do agree with that second statement for sure. I understand why Najee, before the season, he said he didn't want to wear it because he wanted to be looking people in the eyes. But I'll be honest, it's not really happening anyway. So might as well look cool doing it and bring back the visor.
Are they allowed to have tinted visors in the NFL?
I feel like what do you mean tinted? Like they can be dark or smoked, like the visor itself.
Well, that's what I mean. Like can it be like a black visor?
Yeah,
he should do that.
Mm-hmm. The Browns jerseys are ugly. Who approved this color scheme? Again, this isn't like biased because I'm a Steelers fan. No idea. Brown and orange.
Yeah, you got me. I have no idea. That's terrible color scheme.
I like this one a lot. It seems like Kevin Stefanski has aged like a president during his tenure with the Browns. Seriously, this dude looked like super young when he became the Browns, and he is relatively young for a head coach, but he did look like very like super young when he became their head coach. Now he's got like the salt and pepper look going on in the beard, and yeah, there's some gray showing there. I mean, when you have to deal with the situations he's had to deal with, I mean, the QB turmoil, both on and off the field. There's been a lot going on there in his time there. The OBJ stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure just any coach in Cleveland that'll happen to you. It probably is like being a president.
Yeah. Amari Cooper needs some visible facial hair. I can't take him seriously the way that he looks. Yeah, so I would have said the same thing if he didn't put up the numbers he did against us, because now I'm taking him seriously. But the baby face look is very odd.
What if he can't grow facial hair?
Oh, that's a good point. Like Josh Dobbs and Shazier and stuff.
Well, no, I'm not saying like some people just don't grow facial hair. Like they have hair, they just can't grow a beard.
Yeah, like I mean, me in certain spots.
I mean, look at KSI. KSI has hair. His hairline's terrible, kind of like yours, but he has hair.
Wait, have you seen Jimmy Butler recently?
Dude, his dreads are stupid. But it's so funny because well, Jimmy Butler's hair, he did it just to mess with everybody.
Yeah. That's the type of stuff that Sarge wants to be talking about is Jimmy Butler's hair.
Clearly.
Having a QB who can move even a little bit is so nice. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, but you're sacrificing one that can throw. Not that Ben the past couple of years could throw that well, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know which one I'd rather have right now: a mobile Mitch Trubisky that can't throw, or an immobile Ben that can throw a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk way more about this, but like that, the first quarter and into the second were pretty promising from the offense, and then. See ya.
Yep.
Najee scares the dickens out of me when he hurdles. I know he's good at it, but every time he does it, I get a little nervous. Yeah, I think he enjoys it too much. Like I'm worried at some point, and it's unnecessary a lot of the times too. Like it's not doing anything. He's gaining like another yard, but I'm worried that at some point somebody's not going to go down and just stand up on him. He's going to have a nasty landing. But he loves.
I mean, I'd rather him do that than probably someone lunge at his knee. So
sure,
I don't know.
Yeah. I swear the Steelers play worse when they have a lead. Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a tendency with not just the Steelers. So that's
because
sports in general, but a lot of the time football, because you take your foot off the pedal and you don't really try to. The urgency isn't there to try to score and run up the score more, and so you just kind of like try to coast to the end of the game.
Right, and it's especially true. Like we would talk about points last year, where the Steelers would be getting blown out, and then the offense would finish with 400 some total yards of offense. And we're talking like just look at the box score and you think, oh, the offense played well enough to win this game, but they were down 29-0. Like
they did nothing but throw in the fourth quarter. Like it's different.
Situations like that.
Also, the Steelers' offense isn't good enough to even hold a lead, so
yeah,
they should try to score every single drive.
And this is the last one. I'm confused. You see Pickens make that sick catch early in the game. Why are you not trying that kind of stuff more often? Well,
because Mitch Trubisky doesn't throw to I don't know. He's not good. I blame the quarterback.
That's also, I mean, that's not something, unless he means trying to get the ball specifically to Pickens, like that play is something that they shouldn't be trying. Like that catch isn't going to happen again. Like they shouldn't be trying things like that.
On that play, the ball should have gone to the middle of the field.
Yeah, Chase Claypool is wide open in the middle of the field on that exact same play. But if the note itself was about getting the ball to George Pickens, I 100% agree. Although the stats show that he's not being quite truthful when it comes to how open he always is. Deontay Johnson is third in the league. Actually, like ESPN just created this new stat to actually show this. Deontay Johnson, I believe, is only behind Stephon Diggs and one other player. It might be Tyreek Hill. Somebody else, obviously, like an all-world player.
Right.
And Deontay Johnson is third in terms of that. Like 90% basically open. George Pickens was not anywhere in that stratosphere. So, but he's not somebody that needs to be. Like, he's the guy that you want to make those contested catches. Although that one in the end zone, where he like just got one hand on it and it was almost an interception if the guy's foot wouldn't have been out of bounds. I don't know what Pickens was doing on that one. First off, only going up with one hand. Second off, it just seemed like there wasn't much effort on his part to get to the football. He just, I mean, I'm not going to like start calling him lazy or anything like that, but on that specific play, it didn't look like he had much interest in catching that football, or he thought it was going to be way overthrown more than it was. I don't know, but there was some miscommunication on that play.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as Sarge's note goes, that play probably shouldn't happen that often. And in terms of that catch, that catch isn't a play. That was just a freakish athletic ability that he
Yeah.
caught the ball.
Yeah, I don't think that they're necessarily dialing something up that in the playbook that looks like that.
Right.
But all right, so now we can just kind of segue this and talk about this game and give our thoughts on it. Like I mentioned, I actually was pleasantly surprised with what I saw from the offense through basically 2 quarters of this game, the first 2 quarters. They looked like they were trying some different stuff. Again, not really utilizing the middle of the field, but it was working. So it kind of like hid that. It was masked. We weren't really talking about it, but they were running the ball effectively. The offensive line, again, took another step, which if you're going to like try to draw some positives here, I think that's one. The offensive line has been really solid. They ran the ball well. Deontay Johnson was creating separation a ton from Denzel Ward, although he had a couple big drops, and I'm not going to absolve blame from him. Somebody's accused me of that in the past because I'm a big Deontay Johnson fan. They said I won't criticize him, but there you go. He had 2 pretty big drops in this game. But you look at the defensive side of the ball too, and it's a short week, and they've already played going into this game the most snaps in the NFL, and then they had to play that much again. But here's the thing. From the beginning whistle, they couldn't stop the Browns offense. Jacoby Brissett was doing what he wanted. They were getting no pass rush, and they looked like the same run defense from last year. So much to the point where Tyson Alualu is no longer the starting nose tackle. They did make one change on the depth chart, and it wasn't the one that people wanted to see them make a quarterback. Monty Adams has overtaken Tyson Alualu for that starting spot. So, I mean, just on the surface, this was another bad football game, which I'm putting the majority of the blame on the offense because they're going 3 and out and the defense has to come right back out. But the defense didn't really do themselves any favors either. I mean, this isn't like a Browns offense that their passing attack should be doing what they were doing. They obviously can set up that with the run, but Jacoby Brissett was having all day to throw back there, and he was not looking like the quarterback that we know Jacoby Brissett to be. He's fine, but he shouldn't have looked the way that he did on Thursday night.
Yeah, no, he looked like an actual like capable starting quarterback in the league, which I'm not going to try to harp on Jacoby Brissett that much. He played a good game, but he's not a like what you would think of as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And so I think it was a big disappointment for the defense overall, not just the run game too. Like Jacoby Brissett had 220 and 2 touchdowns or something along those lines.
Yeah, Kella Witherspoon was bad.
I don't think that the defense really has much to look at in this game and think that they did a good job. And as far as the Tyson Alualu goes, my prediction for I don't even know what the category was called, but preseason the disappointing,
most disappointing
player. Yeah. It's looking
he's
pretty
already
good right now if he's benched.
Yeah, he's already not a starter. Yeah.
So I'll hang my hat on that. As far as the offense goes, in my head watching the game, I was like, this is basically just a ticking time bomb. When's it going to go off? Because I knew there is no way that they're going to be able to sustain what they were doing through the first like quarter and a half for 4 quarters. And I mean, you saw at the last drive of the first half that they kind of stalled up and it kind of reverted back to what we had seen the previous weeks, and it wasn't what we saw early in the game. But at the end of the day, you're like, okay, well, maybe that's just that drive. We'll get it back in the second half. Nope. From then on out, the offense was basically what we had seen the previous 2 games. Nothing going for them. They couldn't get a push in the run game. Mitch was missing throws, and there was literally nothing positive to go forward from that game. And I just think that going into this game, I knew the Steelers were going to lose. I did not think they were going to win whatsoever. And in part that wasn't even thinking about the defense playing as bad as I thought they did. I was only thinking about this offense is going to be so awful that they're not going to be able to put up points against anybody. And they only scored 17 points. When's the last time? Or when are they going to score? Or I guess they did against the Bengals, but that game went to overtime and whatever. But like, I want to see them score lots of points. It's not going to happen. I looked at the scores for like this past week, just on Sunday, out of the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock games. I'm pretty sure like 4/5 of the teams would have outscored the Steelers in just those games. The offense is so pathetic, and it gives me no confidence moving forward for the rest of the season. I just think the game overall was pretty bad. And I don't think that the Browns were really doing anything that special. I just think the Steelers were playing that bad.
Yeah, the Browns are doing what the Browns want to do. I mean, they bullied us, honestly, in this game. That's how they win football games, especially without who's going to be their starting quarterback from week 13 on. They want to run the football and set up the pass that way, but they had no issues in doing that because we couldn't generate any type of pass rush and we didn't stop the run. But it's so sad because you look at the offense and we're sitting here saying this literally was their best offensive output. They scored more points against Cincinnati, but they had the pick six and it went to overtime. And they scored 2 offensive touchdowns in this game for the first time this season. And like I said, for about 2 quarters, the offense looked like they had found something. What they were still not doing was targeting the middle of the field until that final drive, the garbage time drive, where they added a field goal before they tried the onside kick, and they finally started attacking the middle of the field, and Freiermuth had 2 nice catches in the middle of the field. But why? Like, why is it getting to that point? I don't understand it at all. How are you just shutting off and not utilizing that big of a portion of the football field? Like, what is it? What is the answer to this? I mean, can it be that they don't trust Mitch to throw to that portion of the field? Are they not? I honestly, it's hard for me to understand how an NFL offense is just ignoring it.
Well, that's the thing. I don't understand because as far as the play calling goes, it's not like they're not calling guys to run over the middle of the field. I mean, we've seen the still frames and everything. Like, guys are going to those areas. The ball's just not going to them. And maybe it is they don't trust Mitch to throw over the middle of the field, but why are you limiting yourself to literally outside the hash marks at that point?
If you don't trust your quarterback to throw to a portion of the field, why are you trusting him to play in a game?
I don't know. It drives me nuts. And I who's the dude? I saw a video on Twitter. Was it Emmanuel Acho or how you say his name?
Probably.
He was going over why that Mitch Trubisky is not the Steelers' problem, and it's like I guess his point was going on the play calling, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I think it's easy to handpick 4 plays from a game where a quarterback can look good, but he threw the ball like 30-something times. I'm sure out of those 30, there are 4 that will look like an actual good throw.
Yeah,
but so to me, that's just a lazy take that Mitch also isn't the problem. To me, that just means you're not watching the entire Steeler game and you're handpicking certain plays to make your narrative look good. Not only is it the play calling, but it's also Mitch Trubisky. I'm sorry. Yeah. It is not just one or the other. It is both. And it's very clear that it's both at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I would disagree with people also saying that the Steelers' only issue is Matt Canada. I think it is, both of those things tied together. And, to your point, there are obviously going to be times throughout the course of the game where, like receivers on Thursday letting Mitch down, where Canada draws up a good play, Mitch makes a good throw, the receiver drops the ball. So it's all these things really together. But to me, when you really break it down, what's the biggest issue, then that's the conversation between the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. And regardless of what your answer is on this one, everybody can agree that it is much easier to replace the quarterback than the offensive coordinator in season. So which one is going to happen first? Kenny Pickett is going to come in for Mitch Trubisky before Matt Canada is fired. I'm sorry. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, here's the reality of the situation. It's rare for any team to fire an offensive coordinator midseason. But if you're talking about the Steelers, they don't fire anybody midseason. They are just going to roll it out and maybe deal with it after the season. So from then, you have to look at the quarterback, because if nothing is going to change in terms of offensive coordinator, you have to adjust the quarterback and look at and evaluate what the quarterback is doing. And he's not getting it done. And listen, I'm not saying that Kenny Pickett is going to come in and be like Ben in 2004 and he's going to go undefeated into the playoffs and all that. I'm just saying, whenever I look at Kenny Pickett, I see a guy that is going to be a more confident passer. I think he's going to do more pre-snap reads, and he's actually going to let the plays progress down the field instead of getting happy feet and checking it down to your guy because you only make one read, and if that read's not open, then you start to panic. Kenny Pickett is a quarterback that's unlike most quarterbacks that we've seen get drafted high, in that a lot of them tend to only have 1 to 2 seasons of college football that they are at that high of level, but they don't have many years to actually develop a lot of the things that are outside of just the raw skill of the game. And I think that that's why Kenny Pickett to a lot of people was the quarterback that is the most ready to come in to an NFL team and be the day one starter right away. We saw Kenny Pickett come in 2017 to Pitt, and he started in one game in 2017. Then the following year in 2018, from then on, he was a full-time starter. And we saw a guy with raw skill, but that didn't know how to use it, and frankly played pretty bad. I mean, I was at the ACC championship where he had 8 passing yards.
Yeah.
And to a Heisman finalist, and we saw him be able to develop into that. And so I'm not going to say that he's going to be the savior of the franchise at this point, but I do think he's going to give you better quarterback play. And to anybody wondering, well, if he's not in the game right now, do the Steelers not trust him, or do the Steelers not believe in him or anything? Or do they think he's just not that good yet? I'm like, look at what he did in the preseason. Granted, I don't see what's going on in practice right now, but he did everything in the preseason to win the starting spot. It's just Mitch did nothing to lose the starting spot and was basically the incumbent starter to that point. Now, I did agree that I think that they should have started Mitch, and I think that was the right call. But what I don't agree with, and especially at this point in the season, even though it's only going to be week 4, this is the best time to make the change to Kenny Pickett, because you had that 10 days between your games, which is basically a bye week in and of itself, and you're coming back against the Jets. The teams that you're going to be playing after the Jets are your home, or you're at Buffalo, home against Tampa Bay, at Miami, and at Philadelphia, and then you have your bye week. There is not going to be a better time before your bye week to make the change at quarterback, and the Steelers refuse to do that. And honestly, I think that is probably Mike Tomlin's pride. He's never had a quarterback controversy before. He's never had to deal with this issue before, and I think that he made a call that Mitch Trubisky's the starter, and I think it is just flat-out pride that he's not changing from it.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, to your point, though, I mean, you're on the brink of 1-3, if they should lose to the Jets on Sunday. And then at that point, do you make the switch then? Because look at those 4 games after that. If you're not making the switch then, I mean, your season, if it's not already lost at 1-3 after losing to the Jets, it's going to be after that gauntlet that they.
I mean, let's face it. Looking at the schedule before the bye week, the Steelers will be lucky if they're 3-5. They will be lucky. And that's to say that the offense actually puts up some points against these teams, because you're going against teams that can clearly put up points in this next stretch. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the Steelers can afford to keep a bad quarterback play and mixed with the bad play calling, but which we know that's not going to change. We're getting some bright spots on the offense. I'll give you that. Like, we're getting some offensive line production that I thought is good. They've been taking strides every week. I think the receivers, for the most part, have been really good. Najee, I mean, he kind of is what he is at this point. Like,
I thought he was good on Thursday.
I thought he was good. And then I am finally happy that we have an RB2 that I can trust in to get some yards. I think Jaylen Warren has been great. But when you're looking at the quarterback play and it's going to be this abysmal, I don't see why they didn't make the switch. And that's why I just think it's a prideful thing with Mike Tomlin. He's never really had to choose which quarterback is going to be in. He's always had Ben. The only time he had to choose which quarterback is going to start is in 2019. And that's because Ben was out and he had to deal with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. Outside of that, I don't see why you would keep Mitch in. Like, give me anybody, if you want to talk to me on Twitter, give me actual reasons why you would not make the switch to Kenny Pickett at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, the argument at the beginning of the year was you felt like, as a veteran and being in multiple systems, that he gave you the best chance to win right now. But again, they're 1-2. Got the Jets at home on Sunday, and if you can't win that one, that makes it the toughest time to make a switch. But at 1-3, I mean, you might as well play the rookie and start his clock, because
and also, I will say to the people that are saying, well, what if Kenny comes in and you don't really see much change, or the offense doesn't make many strides? He's the rookie. I'm not saying that you want your rookie to perform that bad, but he's going to be given the benefit of the doubt way more than Mitch Trubisky is at this point. So I would not mind. I would actually prefer that if the offense is going to be bad, that I see Kenny Pickett as quarterback, because if your expectation is that the offense is going to improve with Mason Rudolph, hell, it might even improve with Mason Rudolph. But if it's going to improve with Mitch Trubisky, that's just not going to be the case.
I don't know that we talked about it a whole lot. I mentioned it. What do you make of them making the switch from Alualu to Adams? I mean, like you that was your guy to be the disappointment, but we didn't really touch on that. I mean, if you watch the tape, I think, like, even if you watch the games live, I think it's pretty apparent that Tyson Alualu's lost a step. I mean, 35 years old, coming back from that injury, but when you watch the tape, it's definitely magnified. It's worse. I think this is the right call. I think Adams is obviously at this point a better athlete. I think he's one of the better athletes at the position for sure. He just gives you more juice. I don't know how much he's going to add as a pass rusher, but Alualu doesn't do that anyway. It's more as a run stopping thing. So
I think it's as simple as one is going to be 27 years old and one is 35 years old. And I think it's as simple as that. I think 35 years old Tyson Alualu is really showing his age, and maybe the recovery from the injury last year has a part to do with that. I'm sure it does. But with how bad the run defense is, you can't afford to keep the same guys in there week in and week out. And so if Montravius Adams is going to give you that like not necessarily just a higher level of skill, but just an extra like pop on that defensive line, then sure. I think you need to do it. Add some juice to it, because I mean, I hate that I'm right. I didn't want Tyson Alualu to be the disappointment of the year, but that was just what I thought looking at this roster, who's going to be someone that is going to be a disappointment. I mean, coming off that type of injury and at his age, it really makes sense. So it sucks for him, but for the Steelers moving forward, I think it's the right call, because you need to do something to be able to help the run defense. And even without TJ Watt, I mean, the run defense has been pitiful. I don't want to hear the excuse that TJ Watt is out when there are like 7 other guys that contribute to run defense, including along the defensive line and linebackers. I understand TJ Watt is huge, but especially in the run game and not the pass rush, there's a lot more that goes on than besides TJ. So it's just been pretty flat out bad.
Yeah. I mean, if your entire defense is based around one guy, they're frauds. So big test on Sunday. They better be ready to answer it. The Jets are missing three tackles. So, yeah, if they can't get some pressure on Zach Wilson, it sounds like now instead of Joe Flacco and the Jets, we're really going to have they're going to hear from us a lot following that game if they can't get any pass rush. But, yeah, Zach Wilson, it sounds like he's going to be back for this game, make his season debut. Obviously didn't have the rookie year that you would want from him. But again, we talked about this as well. That leash a lot of the times is too short on guys. You got to give them a good supporting cast. I mean, look at what Tua's doing now in Miami. You got to build something around them and insulate them in the best possible ecosystem. I feel like the Jets have started to do that, but again, now it's going to be tough without those tackles that they've tried to protect him with. But the weapons are definitely there. So Zach Wilson definitely has to start answering some of these questions. Does that start on Sunday? I put out a tweet that just specifically because of right now, I am happy that it's Zach Wilson and not Joe Flacco. I think it's going to be tough for him to just come in cold like this and make his season debut. As opposed to Joe Flacco. Say what you want about him. He's 5th in the NFL right now in passing. He had him in football games week in and week out these first 3 weeks. So he was in a rhythm already. He's got in, like Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson, their first round pick, haven't had a lot of time to work together because of Zach Wilson's injury. So to me, this is a little bit of a blessing in disguise that this quarterback change is happening right here for the Steelers again on Sunday.
I think so too. And listen, I'm a BYU guy. I love me some Zach Wilson. Don't get me wrong. But I think that in terms of a guy that's coming in and this is going to be his first start of the season, it's a good situation for the Steelers to have. And as far as Joe Flacco goes, I'm sick of seeing him against the Steelers. I don't want to see more of the Joe Flacco special, which is just we're going to throw it down there and get a pass interference call and gain 60 yards. But I do think that the Steelers have the benefit of not only having not rookie anymore, a second-year quarterback making his first start of the season, but also having a banged-up offensive line. And the Jets did improve in the skill positions for Zach, but they didn't really, at least in my estimation, get that much better on the offensive line, which to me is the most important part of protecting a young quarterback and making sure that he has every ability to succeed. I think that it's a good game for the Steelers to really turn it around, especially defensively in that front seven, and really show what they're capable of, kind of like they did in week 1, even if it is without TJ Watt. And I think that Zach Wilson is capable of making some throws. I hope our corners play better, especially Witherspoon. I don't know if they're going to make a change in terms of like starting corners or whatever, but
Witherspoon's the one guy out on the injury report that it sounds like not going to be able to go.
Okay.
So
okay.
This would be interesting to see what that cornerback rotation looks like without him, because, I mean, to me on the surface, what I think would happen is you have Sutton and Levi Wallace on the outside, and then you get more creative like Arthur Millett's the starting nickel. Obviously, you can see some Trey Norwood in there as well. You have James Pierre as an option on the outside as well. But I think that you would just see more of Sutton on the boundary.
Probably. Well, I mean, either way, I think they do need to be able to play better, because not that – I mean, I understand Brissett had a lot of time to really pick them apart the way he wanted, but it's also Jacoby Brissett. So at a certain point, I would think that you could start to make plays, but they didn't really. Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for the Steelers. Now, my question is, like, do we think the Steelers offense is going to be able to do anything in this game? I think that the Steelers defense should be able to keep the game within wind's reach, but that's literally my fear going into every single game from here on out until there's a change of probably quarterback, or we know play caller is not going to change. Until we see a physical change at the offensive positions, I just don't see any reason for me to have confidence that the Steelers are going to be able to keep themselves in a game offensively.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, obviously the Jets defense isn't anything to write home about, but the Steelers offense, there's very few in the league that are worse. So it's a battle of who's going to be worse, in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, if the Steelers can just put together like 3 or 4 drives, that's all that this defense really needs. Assuming that, you're getting them some rest here and there as well and not going 3 and out. That is the big thing. That's why the defense looked the way that they did on Thursday on a short week, because you're constantly going 3 and out and they're right back on the field. So it's hard for me to say. I can't, we can't get on here every week and we can't say we expect the offense to take a leap, because we have to see it to believe it. And I don't care what anybody says during the week to the media or anything like that. It just doesn't matter. One in one ear and out the other. Show me it on Sunday. Open up the playbook. Get the ball to the middle of the field. If it's Matt Canada restricting that, forget about it. If it's Mitch restricting that, get him off the field.
Hey, they're going to have some new sod over the middle of the field, so you might as well break it in, okay? Make some tackles over there. It's tough, because I think that's part of the problem as well, is like you mentioned, the Steelers offense has gotten so many 3 and outs that it's harping on the defense as well. And not that the defense
easily
has their own
the most
struggles,
amount of time on the field,
but to send your defense out there drive after drive of just constant 3 and out, or maybe you get 1 first down, maybe, but then you go another 3 and out. I just think it's hurting this team so much that even if you're not going to score, sustain some drives and eat up some clock and gives your defense the time to rest. If you're not going to get a touchdown, at least be able to move the ball a little bit, but they really can't do.
All right, prediction for the game.
I'm going to say that. Oh my gosh, it's tough for me, because I'm like, do I want to be that pessimistic about it? Because I genuinely, and this is genuine, I genuinely have a hard time saying that I think the Steelers are going to beat the Jets, because I think the offense is so bad. I'll say it though. I think that the final score will be 17-13. I think that it's going to be a low-scoring game again. I mean, just because I don't think the Steelers' offense is going to be able to put up some points, but I do think that the defense is going to be able to keep the game within a winnable reach, and that they're going to get to Zach Wilson a little bit, being his first start back on the season, and he's going to make some mistakes. Minka will probably have another pick. I mean, that's just basically we should expect that weekly now. But I think that 17-13. That's my final score. I think that the Steelers will be able to pull it out and hopefully look a little bit better on offense. Like I said, you don't have to score every single drive for me to think you look better on offense. Just have some more sustainable drives.
I'm going to say, so I know that I'm guilty of putting too much stock into Mike Tomlin's effect on this football team. I'm sure. But
he's having an effect on the football team. He's keeping Mitch Trubisky as a starting quarterback.
What I'm saying is there are plenty of years where this team was not good enough to be 500 and they were 500 because of Mike Tomlin being the head coach. I just at some point think, like, especially in this situation, they're 1-2, their backs are against the wall. Everybody's talking negatively about them. The new power rankings have them at 26, which I know like probably means nothing to them, but that's out there. This is also the last time that I'm probably going to pick them to win a game for a while when you look at the stretch that they have coming up. So all that said, I will take the Steelers on Sunday against the Jets, 23-16. I think they get a touchdown either from the defense or special teams, or they set them up very close. And that's how that we get that number. Because you're probably sitting there wondering, how the heck is this offense getting 20 plus points? Well, I just answered it. They're not. The defense or special teams will account for some of that.
So my final question to you before we move on from football talk, if we see no change towards offensive effectiveness, despite that we have the going on the road against the Bills the following week, I'll make it a two-parter. Would you make the switch at quarterback then? I feel like I already know the answer to that. And then secondly, do you think that Tomlin will make the switch at quarterback if they see no strides?
I would have made the switch after this game on Thursday. So
agreed.
I would also make the switch again, assuming the offense looks the exact same. From Tomlin's perspective, okay, so the offense plays bad. Did they also lose the football game? Are you saying they dropped to 1-3 in this situation?
I mean, if this scenario, I'm saying I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think even if they don't look good, but they're 2-2, then they're still kind of in a position where they're still like, if you drop to 1-3, I feel like that's more justification to make the switch. Not that. What
if they win like 7? Say they win a game 7-3 with their only touchdown being defense or special teams.
Yeah, I think that the team.
I think even with the 2-2 record, I'm
not agreeing with it. That's just the way I know. That I see
it. I can't get behind that. That's like, to me, him still being in there is just Tomlin pride. And unless you can change my mind, I can't think differently of that. I think he is prideful in the fact that he chose Mr. Trubisky and he does not want to be proven wrong this early in the season. That's my opinion. I would love if anybody else's opinion on that. I just think that the reason he's in there right now, especially after Thursday night against that terrible effort against the Browns, is that Tomlin is too prideful to make the switch.
Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily disagree with it. So, but I would love to see some of these questions answered on Sunday, please.
I'm sure we'll see some. We might not like the answers though.
I'll be there with our sponsor, Teach Barbershop,
nice.
Christian.
Nice.
So a little bit of a homecoming for Jordan Whitehead as well. Jets safety, Central Valley boy. So back on the field where he won a Whippeal championship. But all right, let's move on to some Penn stuff because I got some questions for you. The next couple of weeks,
by the way.
Yeah, the next couple of weeks we're going to be giving some like predictions for the team and also for the league. So we'll get into that the next couple of weeks before the season kicks off. It is coming up, by the way, October 13th. Penguins with a weird opener, by the way. Coyotes, is who they open up the season with. That's very odd. But just some topics I wanted to get your thoughts of. Now, he is injured right now, just day to day. Jeff Carter. We saw his play kind of fall off, obviously, at the end of last year. They were asking him to probably do too much. I mean, I think that that's a fair thought of the team. Like, all the criticism can't necessarily be put on him when you're putting him in that role. Like, he's not playing himself in that role. Probably best suited to be on the third line. He was playing top line and second line minutes for a lot of the season due to injuries with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. But what are reasonable expectations do you think for Jeff Carter? Like, I know that if you just watch the show like the second half of last year on, it seemed like we hated the guy and didn't want him on the team. We wanted him to retire. Well, he's back. So what is your thoughts on Jeff Carter heading into the 2022 season?
I mean, I think that being in a full-time role and not having to use more minutes than you need to for him will do a lot for him. I don't know what his offseason like workout schedule was like. I hope it's more than what it was in previous years. I don't know if maybe the years he was contemplating retirement, he just kind of like slacked a little bit. I just think that it's going to help a lot to have him in a more not sheltered role, but just not where he's going to be having to be overworked, I guess. I think as far as like expectations goes, if you're talking points and stuff like that,
I mean, I just kind of meant generally speaking, like, what do you expect him to look like? We don't want him to fall off a cliff the way that he did the second half of last year.
I think if he can look like, and maybe this is a bad comparison, but a Joe Thornton type of older player where he's still effective in the passing, like passing the puck, and he may not be the fastest player, but I think his hockey sense and facilitating the puck and using the ice.
Here's the thing. Carter was still
better,
pushing towards 20 goals last year. I mean, he could still put the puck in the back of the net. My biggest gripe was with him defensively and in the faceoff circle, and that's why I was kind of making the push for him to play wing. But if he's going to play third line center, as long as you're not using him on the penalty kill and can deploy him in the right situations, and that's where it comes down to Sullivan. That's not on Carter. I think that this could still work, and he could still be a serviceable player. Probably play on the second power play, I would assume. I think that there's still enough left in the tank for him to be a decent player. It's just, how are you getting the most out of him? You can't have what happened the second half of last year happen again.
Right. I was actually trying to look and see how many minutes he had at like did he play on the penalty kill at all?
The penalty kill, yeah.
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 I mean, I would just take him off that. I understand that's for those bottom six guys, but I would just take him off of it completely.
Him and Boyle we're out there a lot together on the penalty kill.
Well, so you got the 38-year-old and how old's Boyle? Is he also like 37, 38?
Yeah.
You got the senior citizens club out on the ice during the penalty kill. I think it's better to just keep them off. You got enough young guys on the penalty kill or on the team that shelter his minutes. I think it will do him wonders.
Drew O'Connor, that's like what he went down to the AHL to work on, was the penalty kill. So I think that he's going to be a fixture for them in that role this year. Brock McGinn needs to be way better at it if they're going to use him in that role. But I'm going to keep saying it. Kasperi Kapanen should be out there in the penalty kill.
He should, especially for how fast. Didn't they use him on the penalty kill in Toronto a lot?
Yeah. He's good at it.
Multiple shorthanded goals.
Yeah. And he doesn't do it here. But now that he's like, I feel like settled in to a third line role being back here, why wouldn't you use him? So
yeah, agreed.
Hopefully we see it. A defensive combination that I want to talk about, a D pairing. This looks like it could be, the early returns on this are promising. Everything that we hear has been good about Marcus Pettersson and Jeff Petrie. It looks like those two are going to be playing together, the Petey duo. What do you expect from this duo? Do you think that by the time that we're talking about it like mid-season, we're going to be saying, oh, this is like their best defensive pairing, similarly like we were talking about with Pettersson and Marino? And then a follow-up question to that, would that be once again a testament to how underrated Marcus Pettersson is, because he would have done it with Marino and he would have also done it with Jeff Petrie?
To answer the second question, yes. I mean, I still think he's still underrated. So many people hate him for it's basically just because he's small and they don't like looking at him. That's what I think. I just think that he's a skinny defenseman that's not that physical.
I'll say he's small in terms of his weight.
No, he's not short, but I'm saying he's what, like 6'4", 170 pounds. That's basically just skin and bone right there. I think that people dislike him because he lacks the physicality on the blue line and stuff. But what people don't realize is he's really good at using his stick and using his positioning to be a good defender. And as far as the pairing goes, I think that this could be a case like that. And I think that with Petrie, you're getting a guy that is an upgrade offensively with Marino. So you're not only going to be getting what I think should be the similar production to what Marino and Pedersen were, I think you're going to get enhanced in that offensively and allowing Petrie to be able to do what he can offensively and still have Pedersen back there. Jeez, I'm getting confused. Pedersen back there to really like sure it up. And I think that the line could be better than that pairing was last year. I think that those two, and we kind of have like a full on, one's offensive, one's defensive now on every single pairing. And I think that's going to work out really well.
Right. All right. So another player that I wanted to ask you about, I mean, I feel like we're two of the very few people left that still have any hope for this guy, Jason Zucker. He's kind of penciled in the top 6 role. He's one of the few top 6 options they have, with the way that the offseason went down. They didn't move him. They didn't buy him out. He's here to stay. Looks like he's going to be playing on that second line. Scored a beautiful goal in the preseason opener, kind of vintage Jason Zucker. But that's really been the gripe on him, is he's not putting the puck to the back of the net. And that's when you have that cap hit, you kind of have to do so. The playmaking has been there. He's, I think, better defensively than people probably give him credit for. But he hasn't put the puck in the back of the net. Are you still? I said that I think that we're two of the guys that are still holding out hope. Are you still holding out hope for Jason Zucker, assuming that he's able to stay healthy?
Yes, I think he's a good hockey player. I think he has the capabilities to be productive for this team this year. I think that some of the things that have really kept Zucker down in terms of like production, everything is not only just, I think it was an adjustment coming to the Penguins and the how they played and everything. And to me, if you wanted his best production, you'd still play him with Sidney Crosby, but I'm not going to even get into that. I think that injuries has also bothered him his entire career as a Penguin. And so as far as that goes with getting it into production this year, as long as he stays healthy, I think that he can be really good on that second line. And I think that as far as defensively goes, now I don't know who they're going to have on that right wing when we start the season with Malkin. I don't know if it's going to be Rust, if it's going to be Raquel, if it's going to be Heinen. Like, I feel like it could be multiple guys. But defensively goes, I think that Malkin would do well with having somebody that is better at defense than him on his line. Because at this point in the career, I'm not saying Malkin is terrible at defense, but he's not like Sidney Crosby, for example. So I think it could be productive in that sense on the line, and I think it could be productive as well, just giving that playmaking ability. Now, hopefully this year, and I know that this is the one thing, and like you said, that has been basically the Achilles heel as him as a Penguin, is he hadn't been able to like score a ton of goals. But with Malkin being the playmaker that he is, I hope that maybe something can click in this year. They can finally see that.
Yeah. You kind of, I didn't have this on here, but you talking about that. It does still sound like it's kind of up in the air whether it's going to be Rust or Raquel as that right winger for, both those lines. Which one's it going to be on which line? If you're asking me, like, they've always, obviously Crosby, Gensel, Rust is a fantastic line. It's also, we've seen it over the years make them a little bit top heavy. I would try Raquel on that top line first and foremost because of the chemistry that we saw Crosby and him have together, obviously, but also because I think it just gives you more options down through the lineup. And if you put Rust on that second line, that's also, to me, a more, to your point about defense, a defensively responsible line when you're flanking Malkin with Rust and Zucker. And I think that there's obviously still enough offense to be had there as well. And if they can start getting some goals out of Jason Zucker this year, he doesn't need to score, 25 plus. But if he can kind of be in like that Jeff Carter-ish range, above 15, but less than 20, somewhere around there, I think we take that.
Yeah, and I think on that line he'd get enough assists where you would be pretty satisfied with his total points total at the end of the year. Now, as far as the right wing goes for that, I'm with you. I mean, I think that Raquel should have been on the right wing last year for Sid, but that wasn't the case. I'm happy to see that they're testing that out in this preseason. And like I kind of mentioned when I was talking about Zucker, I wish Zucker would play with Sid as well, because Zucker's best stretch of games he ever had as a Penguin were when he first got here and he played with Sid. Mm-hmm. And I know our boy Danny Shirey made that case. He wrote an article about it a while ago. But while I think that ship has sailed, I don't think that you can say the case for same thing for Raquel. I think there's very much a good opportunity to have him up on the line with Sid and Rust and Malkin. Rust basically has played well with whoever you play him with, but Malkin doesn't always do the same with whatever wingers he has, but he has played well with Rust. So I think that line would be fine. And so moving forward, at least in game one, I think you should open up with Raquel on the top line and Rust on the second line.
Yeah. All right, final player. We got to go to the net. A guy looking for a new contract as well here pretty soon too. Tristan Jarry. Very unfortunate that we didn't get any answers to those questions that we had about how he would perform in the postseason because of injury. But there's actually a lot of, like, even national wise, I feel like people are pretty high on Tristan Jarry coming into this season. He was the best goalie last year, and I just found this out recently in terms of goaltending while on the penalty kill. That's probably why the Penguins penalty kill was so good up until Tristan Jarry got hurt and then fell off once he got hurt. But what are your expectations for Tristan Jarry this year? Is he going to finally answer the bell in the playoffs? And what's he going to look like, after having that bad foot issue where he just said recently he felt 100%?
I think he'll have another solid season. I think that what I want and what I've talked about on our shows previously when we've talked about Tristan Jarry is to see the starts go down a little bit, and not because I don't think that he should start that much. I think it's just better for him if he
better quality of starts.
You'll get better quality of starts. So give DeSmith a little bit more, and you'll get more out of Tristan Jarry himself. And as far as playoff goes, I mean, I hope they're there, and I hope we get to see him perform. It's just in terms of contract goes, it's really tough because you'd like to see
he holds
it
all the
done,
cards, really.
Exactly. You'd like to see it kind of done mid season, but then again, in a way, like, you don't know what you're getting from a goaltender, like, especially we haven't seen him perform in the playoffs. So it's up in the air for that. But as far as expectation goes, I would think that he has a really good season. And especially in a contract year, he knows he has to play really well.
I mean, hey, who says goalies need to play to get paid? Spencer Knight just got $4.5 million per season. He's played like 36 total games.
Yeah,
for Florida.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, yeah. So Jarry, he got $4.5 million. Jarry's looking at least 5.
Yeah, which sucks because, I mean, goalies to me, and maybe this is a bad take, but goalies to me are like kind of like running backs in the NFL, where I don't want to pay them that much.
You sound like Evil Neil right now.
Well, I just don't want to pay him that much. Like,
yeah, I get it.
Like, and it's not that I don't want to give him a second contract. Like, I don't want to give running backs a second contract, but in terms of actual just like yearly value of the contract, I don't want to overpay for a goalie. I'd rather get the production elsewhere on the team with money.
There's very few goalies, in my opinion, that are worth paying. And most of the time, I mean, you can say this about a lot of contracts, they depreciate like right away. How many goalies actually live up to the billing of these contracts? You see some of these massive contracts that are given out. How many goalies right now in the NHL would you give a deal to that's more than like 4 or 5 years? Vasilevsky, obviously.
I would say Andre Vasilevsky. I'm trying to think of young goalies, because like older goalies, I'm not giving that to.
Did you see enough from Shesterkin that you would commit to him long term?
No. Not that length of contract. No.
Okay.
Give it another year. Like, if you want to, because you don't know, that could be like a one-hit wonder of a season. I don't think you should pay anybody after one season. Like look at what Buffalo did with who was it? The forward scored 40 goals. He came from Carolina.
Yeah,
Skinner. Look what they did with him. I mean, now he's still like he's a productive forward, but like, he's not the 40 goal scorer that he was, and they paid him like it. I think it was smart that, like, Vegas with William Karlsson.
I know he's a local guy. I don't want to necessarily talk bad about him. Anaheim with John Gibson.
Yeah, I think that you need to have at least a couple seasons of play before you're willing to pay guys like that. So Shesterkin, no. I'm not doing it after one season.
There's not many. Honestly, the number 2 for me, I also really like Hellebuck. But Jussi Saros in Nashville, I feel like his body of work to this point is enough where he'd be up there. but there's not many guys.
No. That's the thing. And the thing is, it was crazy to me is like, you look at, especially in free agency, how much per year these goalies get paid. And not even just the length of their contract. I feel like who was the one that signed in Boston?
Just last year?
Yeah.
That was the dude from Buffalo.
Linus Ullmark.
Yeah.
What did he end up getting paid?
4 years, $20 million.
Yeah, 5 years, $5 million a year. Whenever I wrote an article about him coming to the Penguins, I was thinking you'd sign him for like 3 or 3.5.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, because the reverse side of that is you kind of try to recreate the 2016 Penguins where it didn't matter who was in net, and you can insulate them with a better, forward and defensive group, and you just have like average goalie play. But
yeah, I mean, at least and maybe someone that knows the prospect pool better. At least right now, in my estimation, I would give Jarry a contract in terms of length of the contract that you are waiting out until Joel Blomqvist is your goalie.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the guy we've talked about. All right. Well, that's it. Penguins wise, like I said, next week we'll have more on that kind of given predictions towards the season. Only thing to talk about the Pirates. Miguel Andujar is a Pittsburgh Pirate. It's so crazy. This is a guy that we've been talking about for years in terms of a trade. It was like him and Clint Frazier were always coming up.
We're going back to like the Garrett Cole trade.
Right.
Or like Garrett Cole talks.
He was pretty much untouchable for the Yankees, and they tried to trade him again this deadline, couldn't do it. They DFA him, and the Pirates claim him on the waivers. A nice showing so far in a very short period of time for the Pirates as well. But like, this is one of those moves where like teams like the Pirates have to hit on this. Like, it's 100% worth it. I understand he hasn't shown much since his ridiculous 2018 season. He's been hurt a lot, and he hasn't been good when healthy. But this is a lottery ticket. And for a team like the Pirates, these are the types of things where hitting on something like this can completely change the way that you're looking about the team. Like, if we did a 2018 version of Miguel Andujar, that's, the type of thing that's going to make the Pirates be able to compete in like 2024.
It is so funny to me that I see this article on Fansided that says Miguel Andujar joining Pirates angers Yankees fans over lost Garrett Cole trade. So the fact that they lost Andujar for nothing and they couldn't get him in a Garrett Cole trade, I don't really understand that. But it's so funny. And the freaking ignorance of this. The Yankees have been a disappointment for a long time is one of the sentences in the first two paragraphs.
They don't know what disappointment is.
I don't know that any New Yorker knows what disappointment means. You and I have seen 4 winning seasons in our entire lives of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that anyone from New York, Mets or Yankees, can say that they know what disappointment is in terms of their baseball team.
Yeah, sorry. I have no empathy for Yankees fans, that's for sure. But seriously, like Miguel Andujar, you look at what he did in 2018, super impressive, kind of jumped onto the scene, was a finalist for AL Rookie of the Year. And then you look at what his career has been like since then, and there's nothing. And he's been hurt a lot, hasn't been able to stay on the field, and he hasn't been
hurt
good.
The following year in 2019? Because he only played 12 games.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. But I don't remember what the injuries were. Like, because
I don't know.
It's a relatively, I feel like, lengthy list of injuries now that he's piled up over the last few seasons, and he just hasn't been the same player. I mean, they sent him down less than 2 years removed from that 2018 season he had.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, in a couple games for the Pirates, he didn't look so bad. So,
but is this to you their way of trying to find a first baseman? Because obviously he's not going to be playing at third base with T. Bryan there.
It could be, especially because when you look at the Pirates organization right now, who's going to be playing first base that's not on the MLB level right now?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can tell you it's not going to be Mason Martin.
I was going to say, I know Mason Martin is probably the gut reaction to a lot of people listening to that, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And speaking of first base, it did kind of suck to see Michael Chavis get DFA'd, just because I understand that he hasn't been like the same player, and he could he didn't hit righties like at all this year, and his WRC plus against lefties only ended up being a 96, so still below league average by the time his Pirates tenure came to an end. But you just want to talk about like an always positive guy, like in a bad situation this year on this Pirates team. He's just so awesome. Like you hear him talk after the games, and he's one of the guys that like always makes himself available to the media and just being willing to play wherever. Like he's 5'10" playing at first base and giving him the only defensive presence that they've had there all season. Easily their best defensive first base option all year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, cap tip to him, wish him nothing but the best, but yeah, his Pirates tenure did come to an end. I almost thought I figured it wouldn't happen this season. It was kind of a weird time to DFA him, but I almost thought they'd like to bring him back next year as like an option off the bench against lefties specifically.
Clearly not.
Yeah, clearly not.
I mean,
that's the kind of the way
there's only like a week left, and clearly not. That's not the case.
Nope. I mean, I guess that theoretically they could bring him back in the offseason. That would be hilarious. But to answer the question that I posed to you, I think it is. I think this is their first option at first base for next year. I think they want to spend like all off season and then spring training, him getting reps at first base and see if they can make that work.
Well, hey, the Pirates are holding off those 100 losses right now because they swept the Reds.
They need to go, 4-2 in the final two series?
They need to go 4-2 against the Cardinals over their last 6 to avoid 100 losses. They're currently at 97. And I mean, to be fair, after the what series was it? I think it was during the Cubs series whenever they lost. Let's see. They lost 3 of 4. I was like, all right, just chalk it up. It's probably going to happen in the next like few games. They swept the Reds, so there's still a chance that that's the case. They've got 3 in St. Louis and 3 in Pittsburgh. I don't know. Do you think by the time we record our next episode, the Pirates season will be over? Are they going to reach 100 losses?
Yeah. Yep. I think they're going to go 2-4 in this final 6.
Yeah. I mean, 4-2, I feel like is a tall task for the Pirates.
Especially because they're on like a little bit of a nice stretch right now already. So then to add on 4-2 in the final 6, like that would be, but like they are playing good ball right now. It's just
they're playing good ball, but I think 4-2 is tough for me to confidently say the Pirates can do against a 6-game series over any team. But let alone like the Cardinals, and I feel like the Cardinals just have a mental edge over the Pirates as well whenever they play them recently. I don't see it's happening.
Yeah, and the Cardinals they have the division locked up, but I would imagine, like I'm looking at it now, no, actually they're not playing for anything. They're stuck in that because the Dodgers and Braves are so far ahead of them in the 1 and 2 spots. So, yeah, they're not playing for anything. So I guess the Pirates do have that on their side.
They have that, but the Cardinals playing for nothing is probably still better than the Pirates playing for everything.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm the Cardinals, I'm shutting down everybody right now though until the playoffs, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, we'll talk to you next week whenever the Pirates have probably like 101 losses.
And I owe Doran a money, so.
Still can't believe you made that bet.
Dude, it's just with how their winning percentage in 2020 would have been well over 100 losses. Then 100 losses last year. I was like, there's no way.
I know.
Straight years like this doesn't happen.
And then there's like I said before on a different show, I was shocked whenever I looked back because people talk about Pirates on 100 losses like it happens like every other year. But I was shocked to know that before 2021, they had only done it like 5 times in their history.
Yeah, exactly. History was not on the side of this happening, and they still managed to do it. So hats off to them.
Maybe they just knew. Doran told him, like, hey, I made a bet with Smitty. You got to pull through.
Probably. Yeah, he got in their ear. Don't call up Cruz until this point. Make sure you send
we knew that was going to happen either way.
Yeah, that's true. But all right, I don't have anything else unless you do.
Nope.
As Tyler mentioned at the beginning of the show, be sure to check out Rockin' Around the 412, whether you're on Twitter. If you are, you can check out our pinned tweet. It will take you to the GoFundMe. All the information will be right there. If you're not on Twitter, just go to GoFundMe.com, type in Rockin' Around the 412, and you will find it right there. It's our yearly Christmas mission. We've raised $20,000 in the first 4 years of doing it. Every single penny that is donated goes directly to families in the 724 and 412 areas to provide Christmas for them. toys, electronics, makeup, art supplies, anything that they could want on a Christmas list, we get it for them. We also get the family a $100 gift card to be able to provide groceries to get themselves that holiday meal. So it's literally Christmas in its entirety provided by you guys, I guess kind of through us. And for doing so, we always give prizes away to those who donate. So we're still kind of compiling that list. Don't have a ton yet. We know we're going to have, actually, shout out to our friend Kimmy Flanders. Obviously, everybody knows her son, Jeffrey, one of the most popular people on Steelers Twitter. But she gave me a Gunnar Olszewski autographed football that she got at training camp to give away for this thing as well. So
Nice.
that would definitely be one of the prizes. Obviously, I'm going to get a ton of stuff from Pristine Auctions to give away as well. So go check out our pinned tweet or GoFundMe.com, rocking around the 412 to get involved with that. Anybody who donates will be eligible to win these prizes. Other than that, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Leave us a like, subscribe to the channel here. Leave us a like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this. You can actually subscribe to the link tree itself, I just realized, so you can do that as well. But wherever you're listening or watching us, we can't thank you enough. For Smitty, for Tyler, this is Around the 412, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.